Welcome to the Intelligence Amplifiers, podcast that celebrates the people who make the intelligence a collective superpower. In every episode, we uncover the stories of learning and development leaders who amplify knowledge, break down silos, and empower teams to thrive. These are the enablers of insight, the ones turning expertise into action and shaping the future of work by ensuring that the right knowledge reaches the right people at the right time. So, if you're ready to explore how the intelligence is amplified and shared across organizations, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Welcome to today's episode of Intelligence Amplifiers. Today we have Mariia Lavrentieva joining us from GlobalLogic. And welcome.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to spend some time with you today.
Of course. Thank you. Great to have you. And I know today you're basically in charge of people development, fairly large company. We'll get to that. But I wanted to kind of start with the earlier days. You started in a different space and in a different place, right? You came from Ukraine, I believe, back in 2014-ish or something like that.
That's about right. I started my career in recruitment, which actually belongs to the talent acquisition, and I've been all the time within talent acquisition. But I played multiple roles within the organizations. I started back in 2009 in Ukraine as a recruiter, and then I got to the recruitment management position, and I've done internal recruitment, external recruitment. I've been the recruitment head for various locations for some time. And then I switched the market. So I started working for the North American market, being positioned in Ukraine. And after some time, it became obvious that I'll be more effective in this position when I will be based on site. So I made a move in 2017 to California, to San Jose. So since then, my role was mostly around people development and the people management. I still manage the resource mobility for North America, and I'm head of learning and development for all Americas regions, which is close to 6,000 employees across 8 countries in US, Canada, Argentina, Chile, Colombia, Mexico, Uruguay. I hope I named it all.
Got it. Yeah, and I was going to get to unpacking what people development means, and thanks for kind of explaining that. We'll get to that. So started in recruitment, talent kind of management, and that's sort of like an obvious sort of path from that into L&D. But I'm curious, what about that initial sort of like wanting to work with people and like recruitment? What was attractive to you? Like, what did you see in that?
I've been always attracted to the technology. I came from business analytical master's degree. I was close to the technology, not to that extent, and I was always curious how technology business work, how the application is being built. What does it take to build the application or a software? And I was always interested in tech around me. So I thought maybe if I would go and understand who those people are, what are their skills, and how all the skills are aligned in the software development lifecycle will help me to stay closer and to have all this view of the inside world of technical environment. So I started as a technical recruiter, getting to know about what the skills are, how they are being used across the applications and software building. And then my role evolved. I'm pretty natural in coaching and mentoring people. That was always one of my desirable things to do. And I started with some small mentorship programs, internship programs back in Ukraine. And after some time, I finally land to the big position, which actually allows me to help people to learn and promote the learning culture and to do the behavioral change across the organization, help people to tie their careers to the skills. In our world, skills are the currency, and the AI is changing the world probably as we speak. Every minute something changed. People are getting scared that the AI will take their job. I don't really believe so, but I do believe that continuous learning will help people to play along with an AI nowadays, and to keep their skills at the level that will help them to evolve and to be successful in what they do.
Yeah, and we'll get to AI, and thank you for that observation. I think that's something that's top of mind for everyone. Like, well, is AI gonna like replace jobs or make us be more of a bicycle for the mind and make us smarter? But I wanted to kind of just paint a little bit of a picture of the type of organization you work with, because I don't know that a lot of people know GlobalLogic here. And so first of all, as I mentioned, it's huge. You have tens of thousands of employees worldwide, right? So that's one, right?
So
Uh,
there are 32 countries and
okay.
there are over 35,000 employees at GlobalLogic. The
Uh-huh.
majority of the workforce is a technical, tech-savvy engineers of all levels and all kinds. And the company does this software development and design services for the other organizations. So we build the teams, we enable the teams to help them to create, build, deliver, and support their products on the market. And we work with almost all probably well-known companies, you name it. And there is a 24 hours dayline timeline where you can look in the morning. Let's say you open the news and one of our teams helped to develop the news application on your phone, and then you sit to your car and you turn on the radio, and one of our other teams had developed how the signal gets to your car on the embedded level, on the device level. And then probably you want to get coffee and you get to McDonald's and you see the McDonald's kiosk, and the design, the user experience design by this kiosk that was done by one of our teams here at our parent company, which is called Masset, based out of New York, and so on and so on. As you go during your day, you will have this touch and you will have the practical experience with one of the products that have been built by GlobalLogic engineers across the globe and across different domains of your daily life and your daily touch to the technology or to the service or to anything that you do during your day.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. So very large company, very distributed around the world, 24/7 basically clock, right? Like, because you're all over the world. But also wanted to touch on this. You mentioned it's mostly technical, and when we talk to a typical Silicon Valley product company, engineers maybe make 50% of the population, and that's pretty. That's on a generous side. But I think you are more in the like 90% plus, right? Like, you have a lot of like high percentage of technical folks, right?
That's about right. That will be between 80 to 90% of the engineering headcount. And the reason for that, because we do not work on one single product where you have
Yeah.
to have whole operations team around this product to make sure it's successful, to make sure it's recognized on the market, to provide after sales support, et cetera, et cetera. So what we do, we enable the teams and we come to the customers based on their needs. We bring our expertise, our skills. We are subject matter experts in a different domains like telecom, like communications, media domain, healthcare domain. And we bring this expertise and the skills of our engineers to build specific product. Once the job is done, we go and bring this expertise in to
Yeah.
succeed with other customers, and that's how the organization is built. So mostly it's engineers of all sorts of skills and seniorities, as I mentioned.
So I'm curious about that. I mean, so first of all, super interesting that's such a high percentage of technical folks, right? Like, we don't see that often. But also, what's interesting is that you're not working on one product. You're working on so many different projects for different clients, right? So it could be different stacks, different technologies, and so on. I'm curious. I would imagine it's easier if I'm training my employee population on one product, one stack, one technology, versus so many different things. Like, is that something you run into? Like, what kind of issues do you run into, or what are the challenges related to that?
It is challenging because the skills and technologies which are demanded, they keep evolving. There are new technologies the customers want to use over building their products. And this is where the learning academies and the learning function come into play to enable those engineers to predict which skills will be in a high demand very soon by our customers. And we have even built the demand sensing engine that's like AI-driven application that takes many data from various open sources, including our closed and private sources, like fast analytics of how many vacancies and which kind we have been fulfilling, and what are the open vacancies on the open sources like the job boards or in LinkedIn, and what is the analytical data available on the high demand roles, how many of them were closed, how many do not exist on the market. And this engine gives us the analytics with the prediction, and we just started working with that, and this prediction is very accurate. It's about 85% accurate, which nobody was actually expecting to be that accurate, comparing to what's going on in reality. And this engine helps us to know one or two steps forward, which skills we will need, who will need to hire, what kind of gaps those people might have, and how we tailor our academies in learning to those gaps to fulfill those gaps. So we are there for our customers with the set of skills and a set of expertise that they anticipate us to have.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, as you mentioned, ultimately your currency is skills, right? Like that's what you're selling. You're selling the skills of your people, and that's why it's super important for you to stay on top of like what skills are needed, what skills you have. We talk about skills a lot, like with L&D folks. But I think you bring it to a next level because for you, it's not just a nice to have, like to understand. It's actually a key currency. Like it's what you offer out there in the marketplace.
That's right. And that actually led us to build a strong learning organization. We do have a regional learning organization, which I had for now. So where we build our strategy, we stay close with the business, we understand what is their anticipation, we create learning paths that are tailored to the people's careers, we collaborate with HR to understand when and where we need to enable the certain programs, and there is also a global organization which supplies us with the content creation, with the technical educators who serve us as the trained trainers for the regional needs. And we do have developed the learning management system, which we call GLX. This is learning experience system. And just last week, I'm really proud to mention that the Association of the Talent Management has awarded GlobalLogic for building this learning experience system, and that system helps us to manage all the learning globally because there's so many programs which are being executed regionally, and you're creating very exciting, huge catalog of the things. Imagine it's like a library of all things that are accessible to you in one place, and you can roll it off in any convenient way to do. You can do the event management or like sort of a tech talks if you want. You can do the instructor that training. You can combine it with the self learning. You can do e-learning. There is also peer communication on the platform, and this platform is AI driven, and we're as a next step, we are looking at enabling the AI agents that will help you to redefine certain learning courses. Let's say you're watching a video, uh, the tech talk and recording on the platform, and then you stop at a certain place, certain course, but the video will capture where you stop and will offer you self-learning material towards the specific skill or specific phrase that you pick. And we're trying to enable it with most up-to-date technology that is coming. And the very important piece, which I think is the key to success, that the learning management system is the data driven. So you'll have a dashboard, you'll know what your learning, well, how many people stay at which piece of the materials. You will be able to track their engagement. You will be able to navigate, and you will be able to drive this learning towards the courses and towards the material that people are actually looking for. So that makes it exciting. All the source of data that you get out of the learning management system, and it really helps to build even uh, more useful and successful learning artifacts.
Yeah, I'm always like blown away, how important learning is in your organizations. That in your organization specifically, not only you invested in a team, but you actually invested in your own tooling. Like you built your own system with your own, ways to kind of empower people to find the right skills needed, shortest path from like I have this skill, this is a skill that's needed. How do I get from closing that gap? So it's pretty remarkable. Like it's one thing to talk about like importance of learning and development. It's another thing to actually fund it properly, and not just with people, but with development of systems and content and all that. So it's pretty awesome to see that. Thank you for sharing. One other thing that I find also unique about your position is typically, in a typical product software company, for example, you know, people's day to day looks more or less the same. I go and I work on the project that I'm working on. But for you, I believe you have technical folks that are sometimes engaged on a client project and sometimes are not. In other words, they may be engaged and billable, so now they're like actual revenue generating, or they could be on a bench and not doing anything. And so I would imagine this kind of like ebb and flow and availability of people's time probably creates some kind of interesting challenges from a learning point of view, right? Because when I'm busy billing, I may not be able to learn. And when I'm on the bench, I have a lot of time to learn, etc. So how do you deal with that?
We do have a special program for all the people who are currently between their billable assignments,
Okay.
and we enable them with certain anticipated KPI to invest into their self learning, and we do have a talent management system that allows us to tie their skills, because the skill graph between the career profile of every employee at GlobalLogic will be the same as our learning management system will use on the back end. So it's easy for us to understand who you are and which skills you have. And it's easy for you to understand which programs or which content is accessible for you based on your skills. Most of the programs are self-driven, of course, but we do offer the certain certifications based on certification in the programs and academies based on the reskilling needs. So very often, so right now, the market is not looking for the plain Java developer or plain JavaScript developer or .NET developer. Usually, it will go as a combination, more like a full stack engineer. And there are so many
Mm-hmm.
frameworks around you that you might tap into, and we offer various academies around that. We offer different software development. Lifecycle AI tools that we have created in-house, the tools for like think of it like a private copilot, which has the very limited ecosystem and contains all the information or potential companies' intellectual property within the organization. And we enable our people to use AI, generative AI tools that we have developed for them. And being between the assignments, that's a great time to do that. Of course, it doesn't happen easy, even with those people who are on the bench, because those people are being worried for their job, to be honest, right? And if you're between the assignments, different thoughts gets on your mind. And this is where the relationship with the management comes very handy. Typically, we would leverage the help of the managers and our mentorship and the coaching program for those people who are on the bench to help them to understand what would be the right path for them from where they stand to where they want to go. What are their pivots and the streets of their career that they can take? And then the L&D enablement function come into play. So once you decide, okay, I'll go this way on this road, and maybe I'll look into learning the AI tool for the JavaScript engineers. And this is where we come and offer the options how this a person can enable themselves in becoming productive and becoming successful. Of course, it depends on how much time you have to learn and how frequently you're able to dedicate your time. There's similar material that you can consume within 4 hours, or you can go deeper and to dedicate 24 hours to learn the LLM models for Python engineers, or it can be anything that you think of.
Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine how beneficial it is for your people to have that richness of like learning availability. So that's pretty awesome. You mentioned something about it's not just about plain Java developer or plain whatever Python developer. It's a combination of things, and I would imagine you have to be fairly on the cutting edge of stuff, right? And so whereas and that was my previous life. I used to run a software training company that was on a cutting edge of open source, and I've sort of seen that firsthand. So I'm curious, like for training somebody on a Java engineering, for example, you can just go and get that course that's readily available. But if you want to learn something that's very specific, very cutting edge, like what do you buy that off the shelf, or do you build it in house? And if you build it in house, how do you go about that? Who owns that? Like, how does that happen?
We do have the Global Technical Educators team, and
Yeah.
when it comes to the training of certain skill, Java or Python, we always look at the domain and we take the expertise from the existing projects and existing engineers that we have within the organization. Typically, the technical educator will collaborate with one of the technology architects to understand what are the common asks from the customers and what type of the problems the customers are trying to solve. And during this collaboration, they come up with the capstone projects that are usually tied to learning or learning course. So you have like a whole learning experience. You start with the kickoff, and then you understand the purpose, what this course is going to give to you, and what will be the outcome. And then comes either instructor-led training or maybe self-learning piece. And there are interim check-ins within office hours with either technology architect or technical educator, or even both. At some point, you get your capstone project where you start working and applying the skills that you have self-learned, or you spend time with the instructor in discussing on the specifics of each language, mm, syntaxes or whatever, like discussing the cases which are dedicated to the certain domain. Because if you're a Java developer and you're coming from the medical background, most likely you will have different subset of systems that you will use to develop your application, rather than you're a Java developer and you're coming from the automotive background and you will be closely working with hardware. But the medical hardware and the car hardware, that's two completely opposite types of the hardware, and you have to be aware of certain standards that are applicable in the industry. Same applies to the media. Let's say you're working on the IPTV applications and streamings and uh, other sort of the software or hardware. So we try to tie it to real use cases that we have in our practice. And once you complete the academy, you're not just coming with the baggage of theory behind you, which is absolutely great. If you're able to dedicate so much time and show up, we appreciate that too. That takes a lot to show up for extensive learning experience. But we anticipate people to have at least some sense of what does it take actually to practice and to have some practical skills by enabling them through technical educators, mentors from the technology space within the organization. And of course, not all the skills you may have. Sometimes we happen to go outside the vendors and see the new skills coming every day. And to your point that most of the technology is cutting edge, sometimes it's not. There's so many organizations around us, government organizations. They're still using the same code they have written 20 years back, and they're running the legacy applications that needs to be supported. And they're supposed to be people who will do that. And this is where is the challenge, because most of the engineers, they would be looking for certain cutting edge technology where they can learn and they can write it down, the fancy technology on their resume. But there's still a lot of work that is kind of a legacy technology that are
Mm-hmm.
that are there. And being in a Silicon Valley, sometimes we forgot like how many applications is still running on the technologies which are 20 years old, 10 years old. And this is still important to keep this knowledge valuable when
Yeah, yeah, no, totally. I mean, that's it's we always want the shiny new knowledge, but the reality is we're supporting enterprise systems and they're built on whatever they're built. Uh, and what's interesting about your job is you have so many different technologies to worry. Like the breadth is pretty large, the surface area of technology. So that's super interesting. What I heard is like you have a dedicated team that builds learning content. So that's super awesome. I also heard it's very blended, right? So it's not just like, oh, we'll have a bunch of slides or we'll have technical documentation, but it's kind of like whatever you need. You mentioned coaching, you mentioned office hours, you mentioned capstone project, of course, live learning, etc. So I thought that was very interesting, that approach.
e-learning is also part of it.
Yeah.
From what I see right now, e-learning is not that popular anymore. People are tending to be more consistent and more committed um, to the small bites and the small pieces of the information. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
social media spoiled us with the reels and the 15 seconds of flooding around us, but it's hard for them to sit for the long stretches of the learning and then come back and then do the boring testing. It's no longer engaging with
Mm.
masses. And what we are noticing that even if the majority of the group or cohort make it to the end, very small percentage of those people actually go for the assessment. And that indicates that people don't need the assessment to prove it for themselves. As much as I believe that assessment is a very important instrument and it's very useful, people are just not keen doing that. And this is where some nudging and small bite learning comes into play. You have to be creative. You cannot feed the e-learning to everyone and hope that they will consume it and they will end it. So we're trying to plan it to make it more interactive, to give more practical things tied to what you do right now, what you're gonna do tomorrow. That kind of people to relate why they're learning and why they're spending their time in this specific course or this specific material.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah. So it's interesting that e-learning is less engaging. I heard that. I thought you were going to say because people want to be more connected and like with one another, but it's
Yeah,
also a short form versus a long form format, I
yeah.
guess.
This is it's well known that any co-located team will perform better than any distributed team, no matter how much you invest in bonding
Yeah.
them together. And of course, in personal experience, especially after that long time when everybody were locked in their house, people are hungry to meet. They are hungry for the conference, hungry to the live interactions, especially when all the tools let them kind of work together. That it is important to give an option and to make the learning individualized, tailored to what you like, how you like. Do you like to watch? Do you like to listen? Do you like talk about it? The different sets of the users perform differently on the different types of learning, and having this data helps to actually increase the learning culture and increase like this behavioral change, so people don't think of learning like mandatory compliance trainings that you must do. They rather think of it, okay, why don't I look at this 15 minutes practical course, so how I practice with simulator to give a feedback, because right now the performance cycle going within my organization, and maybe I'll not be that struggling and afraid to give some negative feedbacks to my team, or I'll become a better manager and we'll build better relationship if I'll practice with the AI tool, and within 15 minutes you can learn and you can feed the real kind of a case to the simulator who will train with you and will help you to give the feedback. And this is more valuable rather than you watch 2 hours course on giving the feedback. You will do the exercise, you'll write something down. So once you practice, learn on the go, there is a big value in it.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. That's you tapping into something that's very, very interesting. So the modality of learning, right? So in the past, like, here's an e-learning course and here's a bunch of SCORM files, and you flip through slides and there's an assessment, and that's about it, right? So if I wanted to learn, let's say, how to be a new manager, I would complete the SCORM course, complete an assessment, be done. But now the way we learn is different. And you mentioned human connection, you mentioned AI, and you mentioned simulator, and how maybe at the end of that, maybe there's no assessment. Maybe it's just like, hey, let's talk about how you would give a feedback on a performance review or whatever that is. And you're kind of interacting with a bot. So how do you envision the future of learning? Like what is AI unlocking? What are some ideas that that excite you?
The idea of agentic AI definitely excites me because you can build the agent who will be at the right place at the right moment for you, giving you the bite-sized learning of those particular things that you're lacking right now to do your task. And this is extremely important to enable people to become successful in exactly what they do now. Strategy is there. We know where we are going as an organization. We have a demand sensing tool that predicts which skills we need. We have an academies tied to upskilling and reskilling programs. But you have your daily work to work right now, and uh, agentic AI, in my opinion, will solve many gaps, like small gaps. You cannot know it all to do the task completely. And sometimes it takes you multiple iterations to look around to see who is an expert in this field and who can do this small thing for you so you can complete this project. But if the agentic AI will enable you with bite-sized learning, where you, within 5 minutes, will be able to complete this task, your performance will increase like 100 times.
Got it. So basically, the future is like having an agent that you can then validate and practice and kind of reaffirm your learning with, and that's personalized to you, but it's trained on the very same material that you're trying to learn, right? That's what I heard in all that. Yeah.
That's
Cool.
about right.
Well, any other specific applications of AI as it pertains to learning and development that you see?
We're widely using LinkedIn Learning within the
Okay.
organization. It is integrated within our LMS,
Mm-hmm.
and there's several multiple tools and multiple vendors that we are using right now within the organization to augment the lack of the content for certain topics. But we'll see. The future is coming that fast and changing at any minute. So the best we can do just to the AI first, harness it, play with it, and make sure it enables us and makes us successful. It's like
Mm-hmm.
a train. You're not in there, you're already late. And you have to learning every day.
Yeah, speaking of learning every day, I keep asking about the future of the future of AI in L&D. But another question I wanted to ask you is the future of L&D in the future of work. Like, what do you think is going to happen there?
I think the L&D will be very important. Um, the reason for that is the change in professions that we anticipate the
Mm-hmm.
next 5 or 10 years. The junior developers might not be there. And that's a big struggle for the Gen Zs who just went out of the colleges and they start looking for jobs. And there is AI which does the junior software engineering job. So we as an L&D will have to enable those people for those future jobs that are coming, not for the jobs that are available right now. There are plenty of the people who can do the job right now. But after 3 or 5 years, there will be new jobs that will be generated. Prompt engineering, large language modeling, agentic AI, everything around it will need the minds like who who will be able to build it, who will be able to support it, and who will be able to create by using the power of all sorts of AI around us. And but all those people who are already in the middle of their career or even senior to their career, to be able to continue being successful in their profession, they will need to change their shoes and reshape their careers, most likely. Depends on where they want to go. Because of the job change shift, you most likely the L&D will play the crucial role in upskilling and reskilling the people who are in the mid-level of their mid-level of their careers.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Super interesting. Yeah, it's like whenever we go through economic downturn, L&D gets seen as like a nice to have and gets chopped. Like it's one of the first things to kind of like get defunded in a way at many companies. That's at least my experience. And I like your perspective where in the world of AI and automation, L&D is actually strategic. It's not a nice to have. It's a very strategic must.
Strategic, and even in our organization, it's not a part of the enablement function, which enables you to be able to do something for the organization. L&D is a part of the business delivery function because we play together with recruitment and internal resource management group and mobility group and learning. They kind of come all together because we enable talents to be there and to have the right skills at the right moment for the right market. And it's very important. And that's what I like because you're so close to the business. At the same time, you're so close to the people. And you see this when this marriage and the success happens when you match the right person to the right customer, and the customer becomes successful because we enable this person in the right time. That's kind of a bigger goal. And that's kind of the idea and the purpose of doing that.
Yeah, and it also comes back to your purpose of like helping develop people, but also link that to the impact of the organization. So it's not just developing people, but it's actually through developing people making an impact in the world because your organization is using those skills. Then
it's really important to understand how the organization works. Learning for the learning in the adult education doesn't work anymore. You have to give people a purpose and show them the vision. What happens after they learn it, how their career will change, or how the end customer will become successful, or how the user of this customer will get the experience. When you have the purpose, it kind of covers it all and helps to push it forward.
Yeah, got it. Thank you for that perspective. So I have one more question. So looking back at your career, you started with recruiting and you started in a totally different space, and now you're basically in charge of people development at a very large, very distributed organization where this is an important thing. Looking back, like what would you give as a piece of advice to younger Mariia? Like what would be something that you wish you knew when you were starting?
A piece of advice. I actually asked this question to our residency programs, which is internship programs, last year. What we did, we asked our executive team to come to speak to them, and we asked all the executive teams the same question, like, give us a piece of advice. And my piece of advice would be probably to be curious, be hungry for knowledge, never stop learning and exploring around, because this is where your success of career lies. As long as you stop learning, your career stops.
Got it. So be curious, be hungry, and always be learning, right? So that's a great summary. Well, thank you, Mariia. I really appreciate your perspective. It's amazing what you've built, and kind of like watching your arc. And thank you for sharing that with the audience.
Thank you, Marco. It was a pleasure talking to you today.
Thank you. That's it for this episode of the Intelligence Amplifiers. If you like what you've heard, be sure to subscribe or follow so you don't miss out on the future episodes. And if you're interested in being a guest or have a question, check out the episode description for how to reach us. Also, don't forget to check out Plus Plus, the platform that makes collective intelligence at scale possible. Find out more at plusplus.co. Thank you for listening, and until next time, keep amplifying.